Shout it out loud. Do not hold back. Raise your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their rebellion and to the descendants of Jacob their sins. For day after day they seek me out. They seem eager to know my ways, as if they were a nation that does what is right and has not forsaken the commands of its God. They ask me for just decisions and seem eager for God to come near them. Verse 3. Why have we fasted, they say, and you have not seen it? Why have we humbled ourselves and you have not noticed? Yet on the day of your fasting, you do as you please and exploit all your workers. Your fasting ends in quarreling and strife and in striking each other with wicked fists. You cannot fast as you do today and expect your voice to be heard on high. Is this the kind of fast I have chosen? Only a day for people to humble themselves? Is it only for bowing one's head like a reed and for lying in sackcloth and ashes? Is that what you call a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? It is not this kind of fasting I have chosen, to loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke. Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood. Then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you, and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Verse 9. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and he will say, here am I. If you do and if you do away with the yoke of oppression, with the pointing finger and malicious talk, and if you spend yourselves in behalf of the hungry and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in the darkness, and your night will become like the noonday. The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. Your people will rebuild, and the ancient ruins will raise up age-old foundations. You will be called repairer of the broken walls, restorer of the streets with dwellings. Such a beautiful passage.
Mhm.
And the final passage is from Matthew 5, verses 13 through 16. Salt and light. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? Is it no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot? You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Amen.
Amen. Both are beautiful, but especially that Isaiah passage is quite beautiful. And just, I encourage you all to read it again on your own after worship, because it is itself a whole sermon to this moment that we are in. So, just a little teeny bit of context for that Isaiah passage. The passage from Isaiah was likely written shortly after the return from the Babylonian exile. And in it, the prophet is confronting his community directly, um, naming to them, contrasting their what the prophet is naming as hollow and hypocritical religious practices of fasting with the truly faithful ones, right? That the fasting they are doing is not actually the ask of God, right? It is not the faithful fasting. It is a performative fasting. And they're probably complaining that they're not having that their lives aren't quite what they want them to be. They're sort of probably complaining about their situation. And in some ways, the prophet is saying, well, you are not engaged in an actual relationship with God here. You are not doing the fast that God asks of you, from which God's abundance blessings come. So that's just some context. But back to our present. God is in each and everything that you do and that you are doing now. Each and every slow, tiny thing that you are doing now that is about tending to loosening loosening the bonds of oppression. God is in everything, every teeny thing, every slow and labored thing that you are doing now in your own life that feels so utterly small, that is about loosening the bonds of oppression. God is in each unyoking that you are a part of. God is in each unyoking that you are a part of. And that might feel like it is for you right now in your life. The unyoking might feel so utterly small. It might be you just needing to daily, repeatedly within a day, practice a narrative in your head of kindness toward yourself. That is an unyoking also. It may also be that you are joining in the chorus of people like those singing in Minneapolis and putting your bodies out in the streets somewhere, or preparing to put your bodies in the streets somewhere to sing of peace and liberation and of a new world being possible and on its way to your neighbors. That is also an unyoking that you are a part of, and all of the in-betweens there. God is in each unyoking. I'm going to use that word a lot. It's not an often used word, but I like it right now. Unyoking. And in each that you are a part of right now. God is in each slow, teeny, tiny thing that you are doing that is about loosening the bonds of oppression, that is about divesting yourself from the narrative of oppression. God is there. That is where God is. To name that God is in each unyoking that you are participating in, that we are each individually and collectively participating is in part because if you, like me, feel somewhat overwhelmed, well, this week certainly I felt tired being sick, but that part of why I'm naming God as being in this unyoking labor that we are about in teeny ways is because we need to build the liberating impulse in each of us to continue this work. We sort of need to tap into, to use a newer agey term, the psychic energies of mental, emotional, instinctual, like the life force in us, right? We need to like go to that well. You heard that line in the Isaiah text too, about then you will be like a well that never runs dry, right? Something to that effect. For me, I describe that as life force, that you'll be tapped into a life force energy, the new age term, that you will be, in alignment. You'll be vessel to the psychic forces that drive us. And for me, part of saying God is in the small, that what feels so small that you're doing to loosen the bonds of oppression and to unyoke, is to help build up those psychic energies, to help fuel the life force in us toward life itself. And when God is named as being with us, it's like a friend showing up to help us through the last stretch of something really hard. It's like to name God as with us in each unyoking, unbinding, and releasing. For me, and I hope for you, is to help us remember that we are not alone in the bearing, in bearing the labor of liberation, and we do not bear the whole thing. To name God with us in each exertion, however teeny tiny it feels, that we are making right now, today, in our lives, toward liberation, release of oppression, is to remind us that we are part of a movement. And more mystically put, that we are part of the emerging and evolving of creation itself. These rememberings and remindings can help us reconnect with the psychic energies, the life force, the creative spark, the wellspring, the river that we need to be connected with to keep going in the work that is ours to do. These energies flounder and fade when we lose track of our participation as being with others, even and sometimes especially with others that we don't know and we don't necessarily see. But we are, in our small ways, contributing to a significantly larger work and of this deep transforming working of getting ourselves and our siblings free. The call to participate in that, however small your part feels, is a call to be inside of God and to be inside life itself. These psychic energies, these life force energies, they flounder and fade when we measure our success in the labor that we are doing by the same rules that have oppressed and made us oppressors. By competition, are we doing it better than others? By extraction, what do we have to take? What have we taken? By domination, by limitlessness, a sense that we are limitlessness and therefore don't have to act within right bounds, and a sense of entitlement. And there are so many others. For the most part, the measurement of our success in this labor that we do is to know that we gave ourselves the labor toward liberation, the labor toward unbinding, toward unyoking, toward getting ourselves and our siblings free, is to know that we gave ourselves to the getting free that was given to us to do in each moment. There's a you've probably heard it, pretty well-known line from, and the source I found was from Pirkei Avot, I apologize for the pronunciation, known as Ethics of Our Fathers, a Jewish text of rabbinic commentary, and credited to Rabbi Tarfon, which says, "It is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it." God is in each apparently teeny tiny thing that you are doing to tend to loosening the bonds of oppression, that you are doing to unyoke your siblings, yourselves from oppression, that you are doing to divest yourself from the structures that would keep oppressing. So, to sort of where we are, the cruelty of this regime feels so big, right? It just seems to simultaneously, news that comes out now both astounds, disgusts, astonish, and is expected at the same time. The cruelty of this regime feels so big and overwhelming. It wants us to believe that it is dominant, that it is the power in the face of which we have none. But that's not true. So go with me for a bit here. Race is a construct created by humans for the purpose of categorizing us and sorting us by a constructed definition of worth. created so that then there could be understood to be a justified top and a bottom of the hierarchy of worth. And so that then, therefore, the treatment of those way down there could be dismissed by those way up here, because they are closer to animals, the hierarchy says. I bring up race because it is the foundational principle upon which the false power, the power that wants us to believe it is dominant right now, the regime's efforts to create, construct truth, it is the primary construct upon which that is built right now. It is a lie and it is dangerous. Race is a construct, not real, but of course it is wielded violently and cruelly, as if it is the most real thing in the world by those who have invested themselves in it. And the impacts of its human categorizations are felt most especially on those who are determined to be of no human worth. This is Black History Month, and history is repeating itself, specifically the history of white rage at the progress of African Americans, at the progress even more of anybody determined to be lower down on that constructed hierarchy of worth by race. White rage is not new. It is the cycle that rose up after the Civil War in periods of Reconstruction, when white people took down the concerted effort to take down all the civic progress that had been gained by formerly enslaved and now proudly free African Americans in our country. It is the cycle that rose up and created the Jim Crow laws. It is the cycle that propagated lynching. It is the cycle that shows up in restrictions on housing nationwide. It is documented that there are cycles of white rage as African Americans in particular, but we see it now expanded to that, again, that hierarchical construction of life. Anybody other than the white getting a perceived increase of rights, then the rage builds. Whites, those of us deemed white, have believed the lie, the construct, the made upness that we are better than those who are not white. Blacks, those of us from many countries, African, Caribbean, Asian, have believed the lie, the construct, the made upness that they are less than those who are inside of whiteness. But at the same time, there are whites who have seen the lie as the lie it is and have leaned into a different truth. We have those who have given themselves to the belief that they are no better or less than any of their human siblings of any constructed race. Those who have given themselves in history and today to the labors of abolition, of getting free of this binding, of unyoking all of us from the oppressing and oppressive construct of race. And at the same time, there are Blacks who have seen the lie as the lie it is and have leaned into a different truth, the truth, who have given themselves to the belief that they are of infinite worth and value in their very being, that they are not less or better than their siblings of all constructed races, that they have given themselves to the labors of getting free. This is Black History Month, and while white rage is repeating itself, so are the movements of getting free, and those are getting stronger. And those are the fasts that our God asks us to participate in, the movements of getting free. Womanist movements, Black, lesbian, women-led movements to live out of their powerful knowing and worth and to describe God from their own experience, have been around for a long time, and they are undergirding Black Lives Matter movements, which have shaped this very moment in Minneapolis. So much of the organizing that we are appreciating, the neighborliness that we are seeing, is because of a call to change that came out of the Black Lives Matter movement as it showed up in Minneapolis with the killing of George Floyd and Philando Castile. The Black Lives Matter movement is an evolved incarnation of this getting free movement, right? It is reanimated and called out in some corners. I've been seeing more and hearing more about sort of a reactivation of the prophetic Black church tradition that never went away, but I think there's a perception that some contexts have lost touch with it. And there's certainly within our denomination is part of a liberal mainline, that's the white liberal mainline white tradition. There's certainly a transformation of consciousness and a bringing into deeper connection with the liberatory roots of our tradition right now. So this is Black History Month, and while white rage is repeating itself, so are the movements of getting free, and more so they are expanding. The cruelty of this regime feels so big and overwhelming, but it is built on a lie, and God is not in it. The cruelty of this regime feels so big, overwhelming, powerful, but it is built on a lie, and God is not in it. God is in each unyoking. God is in the getting free. God is in each burst and line and thread and song of psychic energy that nudges you and me and our siblings across geography and time toward unbinding, toward release, toward being liberated, toward a new kind of free. God has been in each of these movements before and is now and will forever be. These are salvation moments. Salvation, not just moments, but salvation movements, I mean. Salvation, to borrow from Kelly Brown Douglas's description of it in Stand Your Ground, Black Bodies and the Justice of God. She describes salvation that is not simply a heavenly reward. Rather, it is a restoration of a person to her value and worth as a child of God. These are salvation movements. These are restoration movements, bringing us back so that we can go forward with the creative powers of God and creation itself to our very identities and purposes. We are not racial categories of worth. We are children of God. Do not give up thinking that you labor alone, that you hold the weight of this truth only in your own hands. God is with you. God is in you. In each slow thing that you are tending to loose the bounds of oppression, to loosen the patterns of oppressing, God is in each unyoking you are a part of. And God is the whole truth of creation. God is the opposite of a lie. God is life itself. So let's just look to the gospel for a moment. Matthew knows that the labor of life itself can feel overwhelming and futile. It's in the context of the Sermon of the Mount. It's connected right after that. So Jesus has been preaching to people who feel oppressed, who feel in grief, who feel overwhelmed, who feel full of suffering and mournful and worn out and despairing. And he's speaking to them, and he has a word of encouragement and blessing. Jesus has a word of encouragement and blessing for them and for us, saying, you are the salt of the earth. You are light of the world. God has made you and blessed you for a particular role in creation's redemption. A small amount of salt makes a big difference. A small amount of light, like the little, magnifying light on your phone, makes a big difference. And so do you. In the face of the overwhelmingness, Jesus, as has relayed through the gospel in Matthew, is inviting us to flip that script from what can I possibly do to affect change, to have an effect, to I will do the seemingly very small things that I do because I am who I am. Faith is in part trusting your saltiness and light. Faith is in part trusting the sense that you do not have to complete the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it. Faith is in trusting that we are participants in getting free, but we're not the whole of it. In Matthew, this blessing and charge is of identity and of purpose. Right? You are salt, you are light, and being who you are is your purpose. You are salt and you are light, and being salt and being light is your purpose. God made you as a small thing that you can make a bigger difference for a larger whole. God made you to spice things up, not to overpower the dish, but to enliven it, enchanting it and highlighting its other flavors. And likewise, God made you to shine as only you can, a flame that can light up an entire room or help guide a lost traveler home. Jesus in our gospel is not telling us to play a new role here. Jesus is not actually telling us to learn a drastically new skill. Rather, he's naming who we already are. We don't have to work to become salt and light. God made us this way, blessing us with the gifts that can bless the world. But we do have to claim and embrace and live out these gifts. We do have to actually be salty and luminous, fulfilling and embodying what our gifts make possible. I have an ending that I don't like, so I'm going back to the beginning. I am saying that God is in each apparent tiny thing that you are doing right now, that you did this morning, that you're thinking in your mind, and that you're going to do when we leave this time together, to loose the bonds of oppression for yourself and your siblings. God is in each unyoking that you are a part of. God is the real truth and power that sets us free. Amen.